So continuing on in this briefer series of anatomy, we are looking at the lower leg, and we're now looking at the deep compartment. So we break it up into these different compartments. You can break the human body up into lots of different ways. We can do it by action on a joint, but in this case, we're going to do it through compartments. So we've got 4 compartments. We've got the superficial lower leg, posterior, which we've looked at. Then we've got the deep posterior muscles of the lower leg, which we're going to look at now. I've also got the lateral compartment, and we've got the anterior compartment as well. No medial compartment. That's the tibia. That's its whole remit. So we're going to dive in to the deep compartment of the posterior lower leg. So we've got 4 muscles there. Let's take a little zoom in. We've looked at the 3 for the superficial. We've got the triceps surae, which is gastrocnemius, soleus, and plantaris. And we get rid of those, and we're left with these 4 muscles underneath. So the first one that we're going to talk about is the Popliteus, just up here. So it occupies the popliteal space, and that comes from that soleal line, or just above it, of the tibia, just there. It's a weak knee flexor, it's a stabilizer of the knee, and when we stand, the legs tend to lock. It's a kind of advantage of being a biped human, upright on 2 feet. And we need this muscle to give us what we call terminal rotation, which is just to slightly unlock those knees, or that knee joint. So that's what that does for us. That's the first one. That's the small one. Don't forget that that's in there, manual therapists. Then we've got these 3 big ones of the lower leg, often forgotten about. We can think a lot easier about the muscles that we interact with, that we can palpate, but these guys are in here as well. And we've got a few. So we're going to pick on the most medial first of all. And this one, Flexor digitorum longus. So break the name up, what does it mean? It flexes the digits and it's long. The interesting thing about this muscle, as opposed to we'll call it its counterpart, which is Flexor hallucis longus, so flexes the hallux, or the big toe, and it's long, is that these two actually switch places. So we've got Flexor hallucis longus here, which is lateral on the right leg, but then it switches around and becomes medial. So it then goes to control the big toe just underneath. And that flexes it. It's at the back, muscles only shorten. You look at Flexor digitorum longus, and we've got the same thing. It switches places. So one way of remembering which one's which is that they're going to be in the opposite place to where they go as it relates to the foot. So then we've got 1 muscle left of the 4 muscles of the deep compartment, and that would be tibialis posterior. You can see it tucked in. When you add the layers back on, it just completely disappears. So we're going to have to remove everything to get to this deepest layer here of the deep posterior lower leg, and you can see that it comes medially. So these 3 muscles here, forget about Popliteus for a moment, but these 3 here, we sometimes refer to them as Tom, Dick, and Harry. So we've got Tom, T, tibialis posterior. Dick, we take the D, we've got Flexor digitorum longus, and then Harry, we take the H, and we've got Flexor hallucis longus. They all run medially, just in between the medial malleolus and the calcaneus, and find their way into the foot via that little canal. These 3 are all involved in plantar flexion of the ankle, and also because of their medial route around the ankle, tibialis posterior is involved in inversion or supination of the foot. This also comes into play when we're thinking about maintaining an arch, or a good arch of the foot. When we walk, the outside of the foot's going to strike the floor a little bit more than the inside. We don't really want the inside, or we call that overpronation, or flattened arches, losing the arch. Part of tibialis posterior's job is to help maintain that arch as we come into a weight-bearing position on the foot.